What is up, guys? Zan for Forward Progress Madden, and in this video we are going to change the way that you look at wide receiver splits in Madden 17. Now this tip is brought to you by a good friend of mine. This is somebody who introduced me to competitive Madden back in 2007, 2008. He goes by the name Calhoun County. He's a coach in real life, and his attention to detail is second to none in the Madden community. So make sure you guys follow him on Twitter. I'll drop his link in the description. Now, what he basically taught me was in this game, you need to pay attention to wide receiver splits. So for a frame of reference, we've placed the ball on the kicker's X on the 35-yard line. And we're in gun bunch week, and what I want you to pay attention to is Julio Jones' split from the line of scrimmage. And what we're going to do is audible into another formation in which Julio is still the solo receiver on the left side. And I want you to pay attention to what Julio does. Notice how he takes about a step and a half to the outside. Now what I've got here is a 1v1 on the outside with Julio Jones in cover 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put Julio Jones on a fade, and I'm going to try to throw some sort of leaping animation to the inside. But due to his split, I want you to just pay attention to how the DB interacts. Now, Julio may catch this ball because he's a freak, but I just want you to mainly pay attention to the DB. Now, Julio is a freak. He basically did try to save the throw, but what I want you to notice is that because he has this wider split, that on the release, you can see that Shed is kind of even with him slightly to the inside. And when this throw happens, Shed immediately reacts and gets inside leverage. Now, you can see I click on and try to save this throw and get inside positioning, but I'm just not able to trigger anything. Shed ends up picking it off, which isn't really something that we'd worry about. I'm more so worried about the fact that due to this split, that unless I click on the DB, you see how he gets inside positioning. As soon as it throws the balls in the air, he is immediately swiveling inside to make a swat or a play on the ball. And that's why I had to click on and save the throw. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is this exact same route against the exact same coverage. And all I'm going to do is make sure that I get that one-on-one on the outside. And I want you to pay attention to what happens. You can see here that Julio is able to get inside position and catch this ball. Now, it did look scary, and that's about as scary as it will ever look. I can promise you that. Now, the other thing I want you to know is that Julio is the closest thing in regular teams that you can get to an ultimate team receiver, such as a Randy Moss or a Ed McCaffrey or even a Julio Jones in Ultimate Team. But what you can see here is that Julio Jones has inside position down the field, and once this ball is in the air, he is able to trigger a animation where he already kind of has inside position, and he's able to trigger an animation to get further inside position. Now this, like I said, it does look ugly, but this is about as ugly as it will ever look for you. But the thing to take away here is that Julio Jones is getting a solo animation on the football, while Deshaun Shed is also getting a solo animation on the football. These are independent of each other and are way different than a two-man interaction in which, you know, Julio is going to try to catch the ball, but maybe Shed pries it loose at the end. We've all seen those animations. So now let's go ahead and start to throw this ball a few times in a row and kind of show you the success rate that we're going to see with this throw. All we're doing is throwing a down pass lead, and you can see that Julio Jones is always getting inside position. Now, about 30% of the time, you'll see something like that where there is a two-man interaction. And had this been a tip 2 weeks ago, I would have said that that alone makes it where it's not worth it, because 2 weeks ago, those aggressive catch attempts, you know, you were lucky if the receiver caught the ball. But it seems like after the most recent title update that receivers now have a fighting chance on an aggressive catch down the sideline where they're going to still catch the ball 35-40% of the time against a one-on-one situation. So basically what we're saying is that about 60% of these throws, you're just going to get a clean catch in front of the DB, which is a very, very high catch rate. So that's going to be about 90 to 100% on 60% of your throws. And then the other 30% of the time, you're going to have about a 30 to 40% chance. So if you average those weights together, and what I'm saying is you're going to have about a 65-70% chance of picking up 15-20 yards on this throw against a good coverage. Now, the other thing that you need to pay attention to is cloud flats and different types of zones clouding underneath of Julio Jones and kind of clouding the throwing lane. That's why you have a hook over the middle to occupy any hook zones, and you have Jacob Tamme on a drag, because if that corner on the left inside flares out to Julio Jones, Jacob Tamme is wide open for a drag. But if it's some sort of hard flat situation, you're going to have Julio Jones one-on-one all day long, which is what I'm trying to show you. So it looks like this. You can see that Julio Jones, again, aggressive catch animation, 2-man interaction, he holds on to the ball. So we're 1 out of 2 on the aggressive catches and 2-man interactions. But you're just going to see that, in general, that's what you're going to get. Something like that, where you're going to leap up in front of the DB, independent of the DB, and come down with the ball by yourself. And this is what you're going to experience with a McCaffrey, a Moss, a Julio, the bigger receivers in Mutt. Something like this. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is you have to have enough speed to turn the DB's hips. So say this was Jimmy Graham, because you would think Jimmy Graham would be a great player. If the Jimmy Graham is one of those Jimmy Grahams, like a Gold Jimmy or somebody like that on Ultimate Team, his speed isn't going to be high enough to turn the DB's hips. So the DB's just going to squat on the route the whole way. Julio is fast enough to turn his hips right away and give us all the positioning we need to make this throw. So we'll go ahead and throw this a couple more times. Just to kind of give you the idea. And remember, I said that you need to have this route combination, so that way you have kind of a way to check down if they cover that. On that last throw, again, Julio had all the space in the world, just didn't trigger his animation, which will sometimes happen. That's all we're looking for right there, that animation. Any catch animation independent of the DB is a win for the offense. Here's another one. And this is what you can expect right here. This is a simple down pass lead on the D-pad. I prefer to use the D-pad because the D-pad is 4 directions, up, down, left, and right. You can use the stick, but the stick is on a 360-degree axis. So in theory, you have 360 pass leads that you could enter. I prefer the finite down pass lead. That's just the easiest way to do it with the D-pad. It's going to give you the most consistent results, I feel. So definitely do that. We'll do it, throw it one more time. And you can see, again, another aggressive catch animation. We are 2 of 3 on the aggressive catches, and we've triggered independent animations about 60% of our throws. So that is about the ratio that you're going to see if you do this. Now, I do want to go into the cover 3s and start to call some cover 3 clouds real quick, just to kind of show you what it looks like, how it's a little bit more scary of a throw. What you're looking for is, here's a cover 3 cloud. It depends on what they're in, truthfully. But if they're in a cloud, you're going to see that it's just a lot harder to make this throw. He still caught it in front of his DB, and that was actually a press. Let me go ahead and call an off coverage. Some sort of cover 3 off coverage. But you can see that buzz zone just kind of gets in the way, and you don't want that. But the nice thing is that we have the check down in the event that they do try to cloud that throw. So we'll go ahead and throw to Julio right here. He catches it again, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is very, very hard to stop if you're running a cover 3. And as of lately, a lot of cover 3 is returning. Players are not swerving near as much anymore. So cover 3 is starting to kind of creep back in, and this is just a nice way to attack it. But you can see how if he clouds underneath that, you could throw this drag and pick up 6, 7, 8 yards all day long against a cloud flat. You're going to know right away if it's a hard flat because he's just going to go stand in the flat. But even if they cloud it, Julio Jones is still a freak. You can see that this is very, very easy to do. I think we're 7 of 10 at this point. And that's why I said you have about a 70% catch rate with this tip. So that, in a nutshell, is the tip. Pay attention to the wide receiver splits, because now we'll go ahead and throw this right here. You're gonna notice that it's different from different splits. And these closer splits can trigger different animations. Not to say Julio can't do that from a different split, but it's just a little bit more risky of a throw. The closer split is better. That much I can promise you. Hope you guys like this tip. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to comment and subscribe to the channel if you're not already as well. And definitely make sure to thank Calhoun County for this tip because it is fire. Until tomorrow, this is Zan. Get in the lab and good luck.